you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video I am sharing with you my high-end makeup collection if I wasn't a YouTuber. I recently did the drugstore version of this video, but today I want to share with you guys what would be a very minimal high-end collection for me. If you've watched my videos, you will probably know that I definitely favor drugstore makeup over high-end makeup. My high-end makeup collection is not extremely large. I am pretty budget conscious, so I'm very selective with the high-end makeup that I try out, but I do on occasion like to splurge on something a little bit more fancy and high-end, better packaging. So I have compiled here 13 products from top to bottom. These are the things that I would be content with. If this is all the high-end makeup that I had, this is the stuff that I'm happy to own, that I think is worth the splurge. So I hope that this sounds interesting to you guys. Before we jump into the video, special welcome to those of you that are new to my channel. I hope that you enjoy this one. Of course, if you do, I hope you will consider subscribing. Ring that notification bell if you would like to be notified every time I upload a new video. And let's go ahead and get right into it. So I am not going to pick out a primer because most of the time I do not use a primer, and the foundation that I picked I feel like covers all my bases, and I selected the IT Cosmetics CC Cream Illumination Foundation. I know this is not a foundation, it's a CC cream, but I call it a foundation because it does give me good coverage, and I absolutely love this stuff. This one's actually gone, but I have another backup on hand. This is one of the few high-end base products that I keep on backup. It works incredibly well for me. I've been talking about this for years. In fact, I think in my very first video I ever did, you can go digging if you want to, just be kind and know that I've come a long way, but I talked about this foundation in there and I continue to love it. I think it is amazing. I will say this, I don't think that this is a foundation for everyone or a CC cream for everyone. I do have dry skin, I have more mature skin, and my skin can often look very dull and lifeless, and I feel like this product gives me coverage but also gives life and glow to my face and my skin. It makes my skin look a lot more healthy than it actually is, but it looks quite natural on me while still giving me good coverage. It's great for full glam looks like I'm wearing today, but it's also a great product for those days when I want to do kind of a no makeup look, when I just want to throw on a little bit of this and maybe some mascara and walk out the door. It's perfect for that as well. I love the smell of this stuff, and I also love that there are some good skincare ingredients inside here. I absolutely love it. Now, I don't use this every day only because I'm a little bit more budget conscious, but if you are fine using a high-end base product every single day, if that was me, I would use this every day if I had to. Next product in my minimal high-end collection would have to be a good concealer, and this would easily be my Too Faced Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. I love this concealer. It's such a good multi-purpose concealer. It has great coverage. It's not overly drying or cakey, but it's also not so hydrating or tacky that it can crease too much. I feel like it sets down pretty well on me, but it gives me the coverage that I need. I use the shade Vanilla, which seems to be a pretty good shade match for me, and probably one of the reasons that I praise this so much is despite the fact that it is high-end, it is a high-end brand, it is kind of a high-end price tag. I think this is $28. You get so much product inside here. I think you get a ½ ounce, which is kind of unheard of for a concealer. So if you break it down by price per fluid ounce, this is actually more comparable to a drugstore priced concealer. So to me, it's absolutely worth the higher price tag, but it does still perform like something that's very high end. The packaging's really nice. It's just a very good, user-friendly, easy concealer. The next product that would be in my minimal high-end makeup collection would be this, the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit Ghost Palette. I have been a little bit back and forth on this product since I first reviewed it about 6 months ago. I do think it's great. I love the Hourglass powders. I just think for $80, you don't get enough product in here. If the pan sizes in here were a little bit bigger, if you got a lot more product, I would be okay with the $80 price tag, but for what you're getting, I would be a lot happier if this was priced around $50. I think I would say that's a little bit more worth it. So I do think it's overpriced, but I do love the products inside here. I am especially a fan of the Hourglass bronzer and blush formulas. I think they are amazing. This is a great bronzer shade for me. I love these two blushes mixed together. They give you that perfectly natural flushed look. I am wearing this palette on my cheeks today along with everything else that I'm talking about, with the exception of I'm only wearing one of the eyeshadow palettes. I do have a couple of them, but I love the way this looks on the cheeks. It's very healthy and natural looking. It almost has the appearance of looking like a more cream-like product, but behaving more like a powder. They're lightweight, they melt into your skin, they're pigmented enough without being overly pigmented, which I know will vary depending on what your skin tone is and what shade you select, but I do think Hourglass's formula is absolutely lovely. You also get some finishing powders in here, which I can use as setting powders. I don't love their setting powders or finishing powders as much as I think a lot of people out there do, but I'm also not a big fan of powders in general. The highlight you get in here is beautiful, but it is quite pink toned, so for that reason I'm going to pick another highlight as well. But overall, I think this is a great palette to have for traveling. It's very compact, it's very convenient, it's beautiful packaging, and while the price tag is a little uncomfortably high for me, I would still pick this in my minimal high-end collection. But I would want to pick an extra highlighter and an extra blush because I'm a big fan of highlighters and blushes and eyeshadows. So I do have a couple of extras. I feel like that palette, as much as I love the blushes in there, I think they're very natural looking. There are times and looks that I feel call for a warmer, more peach tone blush. So I would pick this one right here. This is from Persona. This is the color Georgia. This is a perfect peach blush for me. I love the formula of these. I love the sleek packaging of these, and I just think they're really, really great. And having those pink blushes in the Hourglass palette along with this peach blush, I feel like all of my blush needs would be covered. But as I mentioned, although I like the highlighter inside the Hourglass Ghost palette, it's not my very favorite. I don't feel like the tone of it works with every look that I do, or even every time of year. I think in the summertime that is too pink and too light on me, so I prefer something a little bit more champagne and flesh tone color. So I picked this one right here. This is from Natasha Denona. This is her Super Glow, and this one is in the shade number 2. This is a perfect highlighter for me. It is quite intense, but if I use a very light hand and if I really blend and work this into the skin with my brush, it can look very natural if I don't want it very blinding and built up. And while I typically prefer drugstore highlighters because I think there are great formulas at the drugstore for a fraction of the price of what something like this would cost, I think this is in the high $30 range, which is really expensive for a highlighter. But when I think about all the drugstore highlighters that I absolutely love, most of them have issues with their packaging. But that's not the case with this thing. The packaging on this, in addition to the product inside, the packaging is stunning, beautiful, sturdy. I feel like it's going to hold up a lot better over time than, say, my Wet n Wild highlighter or my Essence highlighter, both of which I think have broken lids right now. So if that drives you crazy, if you travel a lot, splurging a little bit on something high-end might be worth it to you, and I do really love this highlighter. So I wanted to quickly mention brows. Now I was going through my high-end brow collection, which is quite minimal, and I realized something. From what I have tried so far, which again is not a ton, but I have tried quite a few high-end brow products, and I just don't think they're worth the money. I am perfectly happy with my drugstore brow products, and I just didn't feel like picking something just for the sake of picking something. So I'm gonna skip this category. No brows. I'm gonna stick with my Ulta Beauty Ultra Slim Brow Pencil because I think it's amazing. But I do have a high-end mascara that I would pick, and although I generally prefer drugstore mascaras, I do think there are some great ones that are more high-end, and one that I haven't found a drugstore dupe for yet is the It Cosmetics Superhero Mascara. This is a very intense mascara, and it gives you intense volume and length from the get-go. You really only need one coat of this mascara. I have it on today. I know my eyes are a little bit dark, so I don't know how well you can see my eyelashes, but this is just a great one. I've loved it for years. It is one of the first high-end mascaras that I tried out on the recommendation of a lot of other people here on YouTube. This wears really well on me as long as my eyes aren't watering. If my eyes start to water for some reason, maybe I'm outside in the wind, this will start to smudge on me, but if you don't have very sensitive eyes, if your eyes don't water, I don't have any issues with it flaking or rubbing off or smudging as long as my eyes don't get watery. Moving on to eyeshadow palettes. Now I initially thought I would pick 2, but I realized that honestly, if I was not a YouTuber, I know I would still have a deep love for eyeshadow palettes, so 2 would probably not be quite enough for me. I ended up picking 3, which I feel like is still pretty minimal. I know some of you might argue that, but these 3 palettes I feel like would give me everything that I needed. The first one would have to be the Persona Identity palette. This is such a perfectly done neutral palette. It does lean a little bit on the deep and the slightly cool side, so I don't get a whole lot of warmth in here. I think most of the browns inside here are neutral to cool leaning, but they're beautiful shades. The formula is incredible, and the shimmers in here are out of this world, especially if you like a more smooth, reflective shimmer. These are amazing. They're probably the best, I would say, mature friendly shimmer maybe that I have in my entire collection. I absolutely love them. I love the shades that they give you. I feel like this palette's kind of a dark horse because it didn't get a ton of hype when it was first released, but people slowly started mentioning this on YouTube again and again, and even to this day I hear people talk about this palette as one of the best out there, and I think for good reason, because it really is such an incredible formula. You get a good range from light to dark in here, and because I could not be without some good neutrals, this would be my kind of go-to most neutral palette that I would have to have. But the next palette I realized I could not live without in my minimal high-end makeup collection is the Sydney Grace Enduring Love palette. You guys, I am such a fan of the Sydney Grace eyeshadow formula. And as a convenient side note, her Christmas in July sale has already started. It's going on right now. I highly recommend her shadows. This palette is stunning. It is a beautiful, beautiful, kind of dusty pink, cool toned palette. Now you do get a couple of different pops of color in here. You get some greens in here that I think are absolutely beautiful. This is the palette that I am wearing on my eyes today. I have this color right here on my lid, along with a couple of these deeper browns over here. This formula is spectacular. Her mattes are super pigmented, but very, very blendable. They're very smoothing on the lids, and her shimmers are insanely reflective without being overly chunky. They feel almost cream-like. They're very easy to apply, and they apply well with a brush or a finger, which I don't find to be the case with all shimmers. They are stunning. This is a beautiful palette. Cannot wait to pick up a few more of her shades during her sale. I will definitely do a video for you guys on what I picked up when I do eventually get around to ordering. I'm actually waiting for a specific day of the sale because there are some specific things I have my eyes on. But for today, this palette had to be in my high-end makeup collection because I just think it is stunning. Now, initially I picked out those two palettes thinking that would be all that I needed, but as I was looking at those two color stories together, I realized there was really not a lot of color in those two palettes. And although I don't use color very often, I do like to play with color on occasion. So I decided to pick one more palette, and because I'm a big fan of Anastasia's eyeshadow palettes, I decided to go with this one. This is the Jackie Aina palette. I've been a big fan of this palette since the day it was released. I think I titled this the best palette of 2019. I think this is incredible. Now, I don't know the current availability on this palette. I don't know where and if you can still get this thing, but if you happen to come across this palette and you haven't tried it out yet and you don't mind just a little bit of color, this is amazing. I've said this before, but if you are newer to my channel, I think this is a more neutral palette than it seems at first glance. I feel like you look at these bright pinks and purples and maybe you're thrown off a bit and think this is too colorful. But if you cover up that middle section right there, look how many neutrals you get. These shimmers are beautiful. I love that you get some warmth inside here, which I feel like I was maybe missing in the other two palettes. Love these warm and deep browns. I love this deep, almost purpley brown right here, but I also love the pinks and purples in here. I think they are stunning. I get a basic red when I want to do a fiery red eyelid, which is not often, but I occasionally like that look. And I also love these two lid shimmers right here. This is just such a well curated palette. I have used and loved every shade inside here. I don't feel like there is a single dud in this palette. Now, if you don't like color at all, if you don't like red, if you don't like pink, if you don't like purple, you probably won't feel that way. But if you like neutral looks with just a splash of color, this is a perfectly done palette for that. So love this one. I love the packaging on this one. I mean, look at that packaging. It is so pretty. I just think Jackie did such a great job on this palette. A lot of people seem to love this, and for good reason. And I just couldn't see a minimal makeup collection without this thing. Last up, lip products. Now this was a little bit tricky. I knew I didn't want to pick too many, so I ended up going with one nude lip combo and one bright red lip. So let's start off with what I'm wearing right now. For my red, I had to pick Persona's Phoenix. I think this is the most perfectly done red lip color. I love an orangey red, and this, in my opinion, has just the right amount of orange in it. It is still a classic red, so if I was to ask the average person, say my kids or my husband, what color are my lips, they would say red, but it has just the right amount of orange in it. And that's a very difficult line to walk. There are some oranges that can have too much orange in them to where they look like your lips are just bright orange. But if they don't have that bit of orange in them, they tend to lean a little bit pink or a little bit brick and deep, which I don't mind those reds as well, but I feel like this is the most or best tone of red for my skin tone. It brightens up my face, it makes my lips look white, and it's a really great formula. It stays in place, but it's not as drying as some liquid lipsticks can be. Now, although I am not a fan of liquid lipsticks on the daily because I think they can be a little bit drying, if I am going to wear red lipstick, I need it to be a liquid lipstick because I do not want to risk getting red lipstick on my teeth or on my chin. And you best believe the times that I have worn a bullet red lipstick, that happens almost every single time, to where I'll be having a conversation with somebody and then I'll go into the bathroom 30 minutes later and realize that I have a red smudge on my chin that nobody ever told me was there, and I feel like an idiot. It is hard enough to be confident wearing red lipstick sometimes, so I definitely don't want that added worry of my lipstick moving around. So this is the one I would pick. I feel like it's perfect for summer, it's perfect for holiday parties. In my opinion, you really can never go wrong with an orange toned red. But of course, my minimal makeup collection would not be complete without the perfect nude lip combo. This I kind of agonized over. I went back and forth between a couple different things, but this is what I have settled upon. First off, a lip liner. Max Whirl. Now, I don't own a lot of high-end lip liners, but I absolutely love this one. It is the perfect shade. It's a nice nude for me that is pink, but it also has a little bit of a kind of gray or deep undertone. It's basically the color of my lips, but a little bit darker, which I think makes the perfect lip liner for any nude lipstick, whether it's something a little bit more warm and peachy or something a little bit more on the pink side. So the lipstick I ended up picking, because I only wanted to pick one nude lip, I ended up going with this one. This is the Sephora Tan Lines lipstick. Now, I went back and forth because I do have a couple from MAC that I really love, including the Viva Glam 2. That's what I initially picked, but that one is just a little bit too cool toned for every day. Whereas this shade, which you can see right here, is the perfect mix for me of a pink and a peach. I love a good nude lip that kind of walks that line between pink and peach. That way, if the rest of my makeup is a little bit warmer and I want to match that, this is gonna do the job. But also if I have something more pink toned, if I'm wearing cool tones, this will work for that as well. I just feel like for me, it works with any look that I do. It is a little bit more light in tone, but that is why I am pairing it with a deeper lip liner, because if you want your lipstick that is lighter to be a little bit darker, you can go in with the liner underneath and use a lighter amount of lipstick and vary that depth or shade just a little bit. So this would be my perfect lip combo, and of course it needs a good gloss on top. This is another one that I kind of agonized over. There were 2 glosses that were in the running. These are my 2 favorite high-end lip glosses. Let's just mention them both now and I'll let you guys know which one I ended up picking. So it would be between Persona's Honey, which is probably one of my most used lip glosses, and Fenty's Fussy. So I ended up going with the Fenty Fussy, and my reasoning was really 2 things. Number 1, I love both of these so very much. It would be really hard. I mean, realistically, I probably would end up with both of these. But if I had to pick one, or had to pick one first, I'd go with the Fenty because it is a little bit more sheer, so it would work even on top of my glossy red lip a little bit better, I think. But also the value of this one is just a little bit better. So the Fenty Gloss Bomb, this is their mini size. Here is their full size right here, but I actually like this color a little bit better. The full size of this one gives you about 9 milliliters for $19, whereas the Persona one gives you about 6 milliliters for $16. Now that's, I mean, we're splitting hairs there. Not a huge value difference in the 2, but I also think I like the packaging of the Fenty a little bit better. So Fenty would be my choice in the color Fussy. I think I would be content with that one, although eventually I would end up picking up Persona's Honey because I absolutely love that one as well. And with that, that is it for my minimal makeup collection. If I was not a YouTuber, realistically, these are the products that I could get by with. These are the ones that are worth the splurge in my opinion, which I hope maybe means a little bit more because I am so budget conscious. I don't know. In fact, you can make the reverse argument because I haven't tried everything out there. It maybe means a little bit less. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I would love to know 3 things that would be in your high-end makeup collection that you guys think are worth the splurge. If they were the only 3 high-end products you could keep, let me know what those things are. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed this one. If you did, be sure to subscribe before you leave, and I will see all of you in my next video. Bye. No, is that right? Is that math right? Probably not. That's not. Leave the math out of it, Mandy. It's probably wrong. But that's a little presumptuous of me, isn't it? Yes, Mandy, who do you think you are? I always want to do a thumbnail where I'm winking, but I can't. Wink like a normal person. Maybe normal people don't look cute when they wink. Maybe that's a myth. Let's do some swatches. Hello, Diane. Take a look at these swatches. Name that movie. Anyone else think of Sleepless in Seattle every time they hear the word swatches? You know you're a diehard Sleepless in Seattle fan if you remember that line. If it wasn't for this Hourglass product, this would be very easy. Hourglass, why you gotta be domed like that?